Hello guys, hope you are preparing well for the examination. So as a part of our lecture series, today we are going to discuss about the Morley-Minto reforms, which can be seen as a continuation of your partition of Bengal and thus consequences which were discussed in the previous videos. So this video is the continuation for the previous one. So in this video lecture, we are going to discuss about the Morley-Minto reforms 1909, and more importantly, this so-called Morley-Minto reforms, what exactly do we mean by this, the causes behind the introduction of these Morley-Minto reforms, who is Morley, who is Minto, and the provisions related to these reforms, as well as the negative as well as the positive impacts of these Morley-Minto reforms. Today we are going to discuss as a part of this lecture. And if time permits, we can also discuss about the rise of militant extremism in India. So what are the other most important groups and so-called organizations founded by whom, what is that year? So exclusively we are going to discuss as a part of this. But here as a part, you need to understand one thing, that you need to prepare your own notes of your own after listening or while listening to this lecture. So please make sure of that. So without wasting time, let us discuss this so-called Morley-Minto reforms. So here Indian Councils Act, this is also called Indian Councils Act 1909. So this Indian Councils Act 1909, which is also called in other words Morley-Minto reforms, can be seen as an extension of 1892 reforms. It can be seen as an extension of 1892 reform, which we are calling it as, because there is one reason behind this. Why we are calling this 1909 Indian Councils Act as Morley-Minto reforms, in the sense it was named after John Morley, who was the then Secretary of the State for India. John Morley is the Secretary for the State for India, and Minto was the Governor General of India. So here Morley is the Secretary for the State and Minto was the Governor General, let me say the Viceroy of India by that time. So the British Parliament appointed a Royal Commission on decentralization in 1907. 1907 Royal Commission, very important commission. Even under polity part, local self-governments, we do discussed about this. So please do refer the same as a part of this. So this Royal Commission, what is the objective? Decentralization. Decentralization, and as a part of that only in our India, local self-government, let me say the Panchayati Raj system, institutions were very well developed, again because of the efforts of this Lord Ripon and all previously. So this Royal Commission on decentralization was established in the year 1907. So what is the objective of this Royal Commission? In the sense to inquire into the relations between government of India, which was under the Britishers, and between the provinces, So this Royal Commission on decentralization 1907 is to inquire into the relations between the government of India and the provinces, and hence the British government is waiting for the suggestions or the so-called recommendations, whichever means to simplify and improve the relations between these. So thus the report of Royal Commission on this decentralization became the basis for the Morley-Minto reforms. So for your examination, you need to remember Morley-Minto reforms came into picture as a result of the report of Royal Commission. So please do understand this. And if you do observe, what are the most important causes for this introduction of Morley-Minto reform? So it is very clear that the extremism was rising within the Congress, and in order to pacify the moderates, the government accepted some of the demands of moderates in the form of this Morley-Minto reform. So as a part of the partition of Bengal 1905, and because of that extremism which is rising like anything, on one side British government came forward by giving communal award to the Muslims, where they gained the support of Muslims, and on the other side, they want to again gain the trust of the moderates. And to gain the trust of the moderates, Morley Minto reforms came into picture. Government also made efforts to win over the Muslims, as I said. So through this Morley Minto reforms only, for the Muslims, communal electorate was given. And as a part of that, another most important cause, Congress was also demanding self-governance of Indians. And in 1906, the Congress session, the Calcutta session, which demanded the home rule for the first time under Dadabhai Nauroji, where they passed a resolution of Swaraj. So that is also taken into consideration. So that is also one of the reason for this introduction of Morley Minto reforms in India. And through Shimla deputation, a group of elite Muslims led by Aga Khan met Lord Minto in 1906, as they observed that neither elections nor nominations are fulfilling the requirements of the Muslims, and thus they demanded separate electorate for the Muslims. And that is the reason why I said that when Aga Khan, who is that Aga Khan? He is the founder for Muslim League. So political awakening of Muslims can be seen physically in our context of Indian national movement. It is only because of the efforts of this Aga Khan. So that Aga Khan met Lord Minto and he demanded separate electorate for the Muslims, and that we are calling it as a Simla deputation. So Simla deputation can be seen in the year 1906. And as a part of that, the group which was a part of Shimla deputation formed this Muslim League in 1906, and this newly formed organization intended to preach the loyalty to British Empire and aimed to keep the Muslim intelligentsia away from the Congress in order to get its demands fulfilled. So what are the causes for this introduction of Morley Minto reforms? In the sense, first one is rise of extremism. Extremism is rising within the Congress itself. Second one, the moderates who are loyal to the Britishers turned against to the Britishers, and they for the first time in 1906 under Calcutta session, they demanded self-rule. Swaraj resolution was passed. And third one is your Shimla deputation, which was led by Aga Khan, where as a result of that, Muslim League was formed in 1906, and their main demand was to get the separate electorate. So these are the most important four major causes related to your introduction of Morley Minto reforms. And now if you do understand the provisions of the Morley Minto reform, so it should be understood by every aspirant in a clear cut way. So please make a note of every point here. So the provisions of Morley Minto reforms, here we are now going to talk about that. So the first one is the size of the central legislature and provincial legislature was enlarged, and so were their functions. So very important, at the center and at the provincial level, the legislature is consisting of some members, and those number of members were increased. So in the Viceroy's Executive Council, which we are calling it as Indian Council, from 16 to 60 members increased. So the legislative members in the Viceroy's Executive Council was raised from 16 to 60. First provision. Second one, official majority in the Imperial Legislative Council was retained. So every decision is going to take based on the majority of the members of this council. Third one, the legislative councils at the center and at the provinces were to have 4 category of members. So the total executive council both at the center and at the provincial level are categorized into 4 major categories. So the first category is ex officio members. First category is ex officio members, which include the Governor General and the members of the Executive Council. Governor General is nothing but Viceroy. Viceroy and Executive Council is the first category. Second category is nominated officials. Nominated officials. So Governor General or the Viceroy would nominate these officials who are in favor and loyal to the Britishers. And the third category members are nominated unofficial members. Nominated unofficial members. And finally, the fourth category is elected members. So this is what very important point. Even your Bipin Chandra not covered these four categories. So please do remember this. So according to this Morley-Minto reforms, the legislative councils both at center as well as at the provinces level was divided into four categories. One is ex officio members, nothing but viceroy and executive council. Second category is nominated official members. Third category is nominated non-official members, and fourth category is elected members. And then comes under this Morley-Minto reforms, it empowered the members to discuss the budget. So for the first time in India, these members were given that power to discuss the budget so that they can move resolutions which were put forward for the approval, which followed by the matters of public interest, so that they can adopt some resolutions so that they can pressure the British government directly. So for the first time, the discussion of budget came forward as a part of this Morley-Minto reforms. So this is again the most important point for examination. Likewise, even this act empowered the Governor General in Council to create executive councils exclusively for Bengal and for the Lieutenant Governor provinces with the prior approval of the Secretary of the State. So for the first time, Bengal Special Executive Council can be seen. So no other provinces are going to have this so-called step where executive councils cannot be seen as a part of the provinces. And more importantly, this so-called act introduced the communal electorate. The Muslims were favored by giving them the representation of the disappropriation to the population. So the Muslim fellows can go and elect their own members, where the contestants are also going to be the Muslims itself. So Muslim people are going to elect Muslim leaders only. That is what communal electorate. So for the first time in India, divide and rule policy legally the British introduced, and that is what it is nothing but separate electorate for Muslims was given. And this act also allowed the inclusion of the Indians to the executive councils and increased the number of executive councils of Bombay and Madras to 4. So Indians as a part of executive council in the major provinces like Bombay and Madras were increased to 4. Previously it is 1 or 2 and it depends, but now according to this act it increased to 4. And more important, separate representation was also given to the Chamber of Commerce, universities, presidency corporations and landholders. So a special representation was given to these universities, Chamber of Commerce, universities, presidency corporations, and finally to the landlords. So all these people were also given that representation to become the members of the legislative or the executive councils under the viceroy. And Indians for the first time were given this membership as a part of this act. And this act for the first time gave recognition to the elective principle for the appointment of non-official members. And discussions on relations with the princely states or foreign policy were not permitted. So here you need to understand this. So discussions on the relations with the princely states for the foreign policy. So the princely states which are under the control of the British directly were not given that permission to make a foreign policy with others. So it was not entertained. And more importantly, more important point, Satyendra Prasad Sinha was appointed. Satyendra Prasad Sinha was appointed as the first Indian member of the Viceroy's Executive Council. And to this Council of the Secretary of the State for Indian Affairs, 2 Indians were nominated. So these all can be seen as one of the more important provisions under this. So here, this Morley-Minto reforms can be seen as an objective of creating the political, economic and cultural interests of both Hindus and Muslims, which were different in nature, which was represented by the British as a whole. But the Indian political leaders were against to these reforms. So there are some positive impacts of this Morley-Minto. It was the forward step, first step towards the responsible association of elected Indians with the administration. For the first time, elected Indians for the administration in India was seen as a point. Second positive is the members for the first time got an opportunity to criticize the executives and make suggestions for the better administration of the country. So they can raise their voice, they can manifest their ideas and so-called political thoughts for the better welfare and development of the India. So Indians got that opportunity to criticize the British executives there. So these two can be seen as the positive impacts for the Morley-Minto reforms, as well as there are also some negative impacts, and compared to the positive, negative impacts of this act can be seen most importantly. So what is that negative impact? In the sense, separate constituencies were created to widen the ditch between the Muslims and Hindus. So separate constituencies which were created because of this Morley-Minto reforms, it really created a huge gap between the Muslims and Hindus, and this system began an era of gross communalism in Indian polity. So in the total Indian political evolution, a huge communalism rised, and this is the first step for the rise of communalism in Indian political structure. Morley-Minto reforms prevented people from concentrating on political economic problems which were common to all Indians irrespective of Hindus and Muslims. So Morley-Minto reforms successfully turned the mindset of the people of India, where they cannot concentrate on political and economic problems, where they are only concentrating on the religious affairs. So when these Indians are concentrating on these religious affairs, obviously the British can concentrate to control this political and economic problems of our India, and the size of the council was increased, but their functions and powers were not enlarged. So the size were increased to 16 to 60 members, but the functions and powers were not given to these members. Although non-official majority was there in the provincial councils as well, the actual result was not that much appreciable, since non-official majority was nullified by the election of nominated members. So as these people, non-official members, are not having that power, those can be seen as the dummy parts. So under the act, the position of the Governor General and his veto power remained unchanged. So the Viceroy power of veto was the same. Means what? The ultimate decision rests with the Viceroy itself. Even though these much changes came into picture, the Viceroy, who do belong to the British, thus clearly saying that this Viceroy ultimate decision is going to implement in India, even though we Indians are somewhat get these opportunity to criticize that. And the members could discuss the budget, but they could not make any substantial change in the budget. They can discuss the budget, but they cannot change the budget according to the demands and needs of the people. And next negative impact, the resolutions which were like recommendations were not binding to the government. So the government might take that into consideration, might not take that into consideration. So finally they could ask the questions, Indians could ask the questions, but could not force the executives to reply. And hence we cannot say that this step of Morley-Minto reforms or 1909 Indian Councils Act is making the British government to become accountable to the Indians. So these are the negative points here. So finally, as the moderate leader supported the government on the matters of implementing the reforms, but at the same time they lost their base among the masses. So when Morley-Minto reforms were accepted by the moderates there, they lost their identity, they lost their support, they lost their values among the masses. The trust on the moderates from the masses was completely went into vain. And further, the British government did nothing for the demand of self-government of Congress, because Lord Minto himself cleared that colonial self-government was not apt for India. So Minto used to say that self-government, you cannot take that into consideration. And he was also in favor of the introduction of parliamentary or responsible government. So in the year 1909 itself, when the statement made by this Lord Minto, that clearly represents the true colors of the Britishers there. And hence this is how the so-called Indian Councils Act came into picture. And here comes that so-called Indian Councils Act. What are the most important points? Just now we have discussed all this, so please do go through this and make a note of this. And as a part of this Morley-Minto reforms, slowly terrorist and revolutionary movements in India started, and hence as a part of that revolutionary movement, which can be seen as an output of your partition of Bengal 1905. In the previous video only we have discussed that this Lala Lajpat Roy from Punjab, Ranjit Singh from Punjab has been deported to this Burma in 1907. Chidambaram Pillai from Chennai got arrested. Tilak sent to Burma and sentenced to 6 years of jail. So these all came into picture. So over a period of time, by the time of 1909 Morley-Minto reforms, the British again succeeded to control the Indian political economic structure again. So now the rise of this terrorist and revolutionary movement, just have an idea here. The left wing of the Congress eventually got divided, and as a result of agitational outburst and governmental repression. That is the reason why from the Indian National Congress, which got split in the year 1907 under the name called Surat session. So that is what it is saying. And the government identity, let me say, the British government trust by the Indians was totally went into vain, because that Seditious Meeting Act which was passed by these fellows. Seditious Meeting Act is nothing but no public meetings and demonstrations can be highlighted. They should take the permission of the British, where British were not encouraged the Indians to have these public meetings to conduct. Likewise, they also enacted, British government also enacted Newspapers Incitement to Offence Act, which we have discussed in the previous video. Please do go and watch there. So where newspapers, they need to go and take the permission, and they use it to give that stamp duty and all. Along with that, they use it to they should also give the from which press it is getting printed, who is the editor for that, who is the main chairman for that, CEO for that. So such a type of whole list is to be submitted before the British, and if then British is giving that permission, then only that so-called newspapers are going to be printed. So this can be seen as a curtailing point to take off the freedom of press in India. And likewise, without trial, arrests and punishments were given to the Indians who are against to the Britishers, and this finally seen as a result for this so-called terrorist and revolutionary movements in India. And as a part of that, the first revolutionary movement against the British is your Swadeshi and the boycott resolution. So the terrorists and revolutionaries who were inspired by the knowledge of the revolutionary movements in the West for freedom, that inspiration can be seen as a part of your Swadeshi and boycott resolution. The terrorist and revolutionary movements are summarized on the account of their activities, which are being given in the following sections. So what are those sections? Now let us understand what are those sections, so that you can easily take a point of that. So you can all go through all these, and in that the most important movement is your Ghadar movement in 1907. See, Lala Hardayal, who got influence of the revolutionaries. By the time 1907, he is working in the Oxford University, and he started a weekly paper, Ghadar. So he was supported by many leaders there in London itself, and all these people started a party called Ghadar Party. So this Ghadar Party was formed in the year 1913, but the ideas initiated in the year 1907 by this Lala Hardayal. So they are having a clear-cut objective. So this Ghadar Party is having some objectives. One is temper the loyalty of the Indian troops. Second one is assassinate the British officials. Third one is court foreign enemies to Britain. Again, throw that fellows to the Britain itself. And to form secret societies and propagate the seditious literature. Means terrorist literatures. So the Ghadar movements can be seen as a part of anti-British sentiment, which really intensified because of the great historical aspect which was happened, and that is what we call it as Komagattamaru episode. So Komagattamaru episode, we should understand here, recently in 2016 there is a news where Canada offered an apology. What is that? Canada offered an apology in 2016 to India in the House of Commons of Canada, May 18. What is that? May 18th. So May 18th, almost 102 years by 2016, this incident was happened, Komagattamaru incident. So this incident was happened in the year 1914, and it involved a Japanese ship. Komagattamaru is the name of the Japanese ship. Which is carrying 376 Indian passengers from Hong Kong to Canada. Touching various other ports during the journey. However, at reaching the Vancouver port can be seen in your Canada itself. So after touching almost all the ports there, it reached the Vancouver port of Canada, and these passengers who are Indians were not allowed to get down. So after a period of 2 months, the ship again returned back to India, again touching the same ports. So the ship reached this Budge port. What is the name? Budge port. Budge port is nothing but your Kolkata port. So after 2 months, it reached again to Kolkata. However, the British authorities did not allow the passengers to again get down, and in fact the passengers were welcomed with bullets. This was due to the Contagious Passage Act enacted by the Canadian government to check the immigrants, and particularly from India. So what is that act? Continuous passage. So when the people who used to pass through these ports, they are going to have some epidemics, something like that. So with an intention that these fellows were attacked by those type of epidemics, the British people who again, these Indians, 376 Indians again who came back to Kolkata Budge port, were not allowed. In fact, when they tried to get down to our homeland, the British fellows started firing on them. So in this incident, 19 Canada bound Indian immigrants, 19 Indians who were immigrants from Canada were killed in the police firing, and many were arrested by the British police. So this can be seen as the violation of the human rights, like arbitrary detention, which helped the Indian independence and the fighters who are fighting to expose the true face of British administration. And this journey of Komagattamaru touched various ports during the course, where the delivery of political lecture helped the rally support of other countries. So when these fellows, 376 fellows, when they are coming back by touching different ports from Canada to India, there they started to give their political speeches, and which really triggered everyone to support India. And this exposition of ASEAN Exclusion Act, the discrimination immigration laws, that immigration laws which are discriminatory in nature for ASEANs exclusively, only allowed the leaders to raise a question on white man's burden. So there is a theory, white man's burden theory, where the English people used to say that we are the lords, we are here the civilized, and we are here on this land to civilize all others. So simply saying, any type of development, any type of civilized aspects which can rise is only because of the efforts of the English white men. So that is nothing but your white man's burden theory. Especially in the region of Asia, we can see this. So the leaders of this ASEAN regions raised a question on this white man's burden theory, and that influenced these fellows who are touching the different ports, and hence they started to accept that these English people are really a great burden to the ASEAN development. So Ghadar party used the incident to rally support with the intention to organize a massive uprising against the British Empire. So in London itself, this so-called Komagatamaru incident directly related to your Gaddar movement, clearly put a pressure on the British Empire directly. Thus, it can be said that Komatagatamaru incident was an important landmark, was an important event in the political history of India, and it ignited the masses and provided them a plank to carry out attacks against the Britishers. So, this Gaddar movement along with this Komatagatamaru episode really triggered and ignited the minds of the masses and provided that support to start their agitations and to start their attacks against the Britishers. And hence, this is what the current affair related to this Gaddar party as well as this Komatagatamaru incident in the Indian political history. So, Canada recently apologized India on this. So, likewise, we can observe this so-called terrorist activities which raised as a part of our Indian national movement as by the time of your 1909 Morley Minto reforms. Likewise, we are having many other so-called organizations which collectively started in India over a period of time, and such a type of these movements were the All India Mutiny, which was founded in the year 1910 but failed by the time of 1915, and other revolutionary events also you can highlight, and this is for your preliminary examination. See, murder of W.C. Rand and Lieutenant Ayerst by Chapakar brothers at Pune in 1897 previously, formation of Indian House in London 1905 by Shyamji Krishnavarma and V.D. Savarkar, establishment of Indian House in New York by this Barkatullah and S.L. Joshi, and attempted a murder of Lieutenant Governor Fuller of East Bengal by Barendra Kumar Ghosh and Bhupendra Nath Datta in 1906, the Kennedy murder in 1908, in which two English ladies were killed when Kundiram Bose attempted to kill the magistrate Kingsford of Muzaffarabad, who escaped and then he got hurt, and because of that these two fellows got hanged, executed. And Madan Lal Dhingra murdered this Karjan Willi, an official in the British India office at London, and an attempt assassination of Lord Hardinge when he approaching Delhi in 1912, and Raj Bihari Bose and Sachin Chandra Shyam missed their target. So likewise, we are having a course of events where you can easily go through this. And finally, for your examination, you can also see this rise of Bhagat Singh. So Bhagat Singh is an important figure in the history of Indian freedom movement, and he was a revolutionary leader who was executed by the British. So in our next lecture, we are going to continue from this rise of Bhagat Singh. Who is this Bhagat Singh? What is his contribution, and how far he contributed, and how far the impact of Bhagat Singh can be seen in this revolutionary movements of India. And finally, I am going to give you the lecture video saying the reasons for the failure of these terrorist activities against the Britishers, and for your preliminary exclusively the organization and the founders, the year and the region, so that we can clearly understand after this 1909 Morley Minto reforms what happened. I hope you understood this video. In our next video lecture, we are going to talk about the rise of Bhagat Singh and the continuation of these terrorist activities against to the Britishers. So this is all for this video. Thank you very much.